Top of the afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're outside the shop. We're going to do a little saw-off comparison between a fairly new 395, and this has been a long time coming. I've been waiting for this myself, actually. We also have a 2100. This is actually the thin ring version 2100, so it was manufactured sometime between 79 and 1985. That was the end of the thin ring 2100. I had a few of them back in the middle of the 80s. You could use them with the 3-foot bar. I'm talking the 119 driver 3-foot bar, not the 115 driver 3-foot bar, which that perplexes me, knowing the little bit of physics that I know. It's impossible to have two unequal units of measure that equal the same amount of distance. So however they dreamed that one up, whoever dreamed it up, somebody was smoking something pretty heavily and it was good. Anyway, back in the day, fell some old growth with some of those saws. You can see we even have the old style clutch on it. I weighed that saw with the, let's look at it closer, bar plate and this style clutch cover, which came on them in normal form with the single dog, 22.2 pounds, fully laden with gas and oil. In this configuration, and I just let the bar nuts hit the deck, with the chain brake assembly, it weighed 23.6 pounds. That saw being the 395, weighs 21.6, fully laden with fuel in the West Coast trim, so the 2100's a couple pounds heavier. They were in stock form, kind of a force actually. Back in the day, the 56 was kind of a pretty good saw. These would walk all over the 056 Magnum, 056 Standard, didn't matter which version you had. Stock for stock, 2100 was gobbling them up. Weighed a little bit more, but not too much. So everything's pretty much warmed up, and we're going to get started on the saw testing aspect. Master Jackson's going to be helping with the tachometer when he gets back here, and we're probably going to take a look at the chain. This is an old clapped out wood chain. The stops are down 100 miles. Probably going to give the 395 a run for its money, but let us begin. Thing that I broke the other day. So we'll do a little wardrobe change while we're rolling, I guess. One thing that I did do is I actually resharpened this chain. It's an old firewood edition, I guess, pretty clapped out. The teeth, it's long in the tooth in concept, but it's technically short in the tooth as a result physically. And the stops are actually down 100 miles, essentially. So I've adjusted my grind to deal with the summertime situation that we have going on right now. And I saw with the 395 that it was motoring right along. Let us take a look at the stops and see where we're at. And I dropped this thing on the ground and kind of like put the hurt on it, unfortunately. So it says they're down 100 thousandths on those two that I checked. They were within a couple. Wow, this side's way off. But I take them down by hand. I have mentioned 100 times, maybe. 110 versus 104. So somebody needs to get their bifocals adjusted, I think. That'd be me. Pretty consistent 113 on this side, 114, 113. There's a 110. So stops are down a long ways, firewood chain, and like I said, I adjusted the grind a little bit on this, which means the angles are set up a little bit more for what we're dealing with, and the 2100 is going to get into a big knot here in a second. Hey, over here. Okay, so I'm going to say that the 395, which kind of an upgrade in concept from the 394 in the torque aspect, that was why they redesigned the cylinder with a quad loop style transfer port system, if you will. Prehistoric in design from back, well, that saw is based off the 1100, which I think that was early to mid 70s vintage saw. The 2100, I think the first year of production was 1978, but I think they came in America in 79. I can't remember, I was pretty young back then, but I think the wrap version chain brake assembly was kind of lagging. I think they originally hit the deck in about 81 or somewhere around in there with a chain brake system for the half wrap. They don't actually interchange because of the wrap version handlebars are actually a little bit different configuration. They're a little further forward. The design was to compensate for the longer bar. 2100s were like a 42 to, I heard of a guy up in Mount St. Helens that was running a 72 on a zipped one. I never actually saw it, I just heard about it. My cousin was on a yarder crew over there back in 81, right after Mount St. Helens torched off. Anyway, I kind of digressed about some history. My personal experience, I fell some Mondo second growth and some nice old growth with some 2100s back in the 80s. Fell quite a bit with 394s, even a little bit with some 395. And anyway, various states of tune for the 2100. I kind of alluded to the fact that they kind of gobbled up a 56 back in the day, the Magnum version, of course. They come with a govenator or a governor in the carb. That's why we didn't get that thing zinging up any further than it was. Obviously the 395 will spin right along. They have an unlimited coil. So does the 2100, but the governor in the carburetor keeps them from spinning up much. We're going to have to modify that a little bit, I think. I think when you're talking about comparing horsepower numbers, it's about 7.1 unless you look at the current published number on Husqvarna's website for the 395. It shows 6. I've seen various numbers for the non-published, actually 298 non-published, 6.7 for the 20. And so in stock form, the 2100's down on horsepower quite a little bit, 4/10, almost half of a horsepower. And we saw it kind of struggling. Part of that is the carburation, though. I think that if I was able to get that thing spinning up around 12.5 or so, I think it would have been a lot closer since we're down 2,500 RPMs. But again, in zip form, I'm going with the 2100's going to mop up on the 395. So, been wanting to play around with another one of these, and I'm going to try to take the time to do that in the next month or so. But anyway, kind of an interesting situation. Pulled that one off the shelf. It's just been hanging around for quite some time. Oh, and I did put a new carb kit in the 2100 before I started this session, and you can see it's got a little bit of a bonk above the professional on the clutch cover. It's not perfect, but it's super cherry. But anyway, thanks for watching this session. I look forward to checking the time runs myself. Have a blessed day wherever you might be on God's green earth.